I was moved to a little town in the country. I was thrown away due to my lack of competence. I had that thought. The person who contacted me was a stunning supervisor. I'm Ted, and I'm 28. I was transferred from the head office of the welfare equipment manufacturing company where I worked to this small rural hamlet. I joined this company because I wanted to help someone. Although I was committed to creating welfare equipment, it appears that I was incompetent when I was thrown away. There was a welcoming vibe as soon as I walked into the office, which was smaller than the headquarters. "You're Ted H. then. It's good to meet you. I'm Sarah, and I've been given the task of helping you until you adjust. If there is anything you don't understand, don't hesitate to ask." The 30-year-old Sarah calmly introduced herself. I have her as my mentor at this branch. How can I tell how old she is? I learned this from an older, more seasoned clerk who has worked at this branch for a long time. Despite her severe exterior, she is a nice and diligent individual who is reliable. I've never heard any gossip regarding her personal life, despite the fact that she is 30 years old. She's really a nice person, the cashier who told me this said, observing Sarah with gentle eyes. You know what? Is my face covered in something? She is indeed incredibly attractive. Sarah spoke to me as I was thinking these things, looking a little irritated. No, I hurriedly answered, it's nothing. She simply said, I see, and left to take care of a guest. I reviewed the paperwork that Sarah had given me, making sure I remembered the details of the factory I would be visiting later. When I worked at the headquarters, I never visited the manufacturing plant. I'm already anxious because this is my first factory tour since I started working for the company. I worked on project proposals to send to headquarters after completing the new tasks at the branch. I was desperate to go back into product development. To ensure that I was happy with my work, I stayed late every day, but not to the point that it got in the way of my everyday responsibilities. I'd arrived home late today as well and quickly got food. Sometimes I should prepare meals for myself. I grumbled that I needed to start cooking and better controlling my diet as I looked at my kitchen, which I hardly used. I grabbed for my bag after eating and showering. I took out the paperwork for the customer I would be seeing tomorrow. I ingrained the factory's ideology and the characteristics of the goods they handle into my mind after reading about them. It's amazing. Their concern for each and every substance they utilize is evident to me. I was startled and intrigued by the kind of materials included in the factory's brochure because of their number and thorough quality specifications. I pondered what sort of procedure the goods produced in this plant must go through in order to be finished. The morning of the external visit day follows. The tension of the new surroundings seems to be having an impact on my physique on this particular day. Good morning, Ted. You don't look very good. Are you all right? Sarah, who is usually very strict, looks at me with worry and seems anxious. I apologize. I didn't want to worry her, so I courageously said, I'm fine. Let's move forward. However, Sarah's expression remained worried. I hastily finished getting ready for the visit and rushed out of there so as not to upset her. If you start to feel worse, let me know. She must have realized I wasn't feeling well. I couldn't help but smile as she placed some of the company's medication in my suitcase. She included a lot of Band-Aids in there, so it wasn't just about observing her compassionate side. When am I going to use those? We arrived at the production factory and exchanged greetings while I was grinning at her natural side. We were given a tour of the plant by the very kind plant manager. Even for a novice like myself, it was clear that I was embarrassed to be witnessing the production process for the first time. There were many processes in the production process that needed a human touch, even if machines played a major role. The quantity of individuals involved, from planning to manufacture, impressed me. Isn't it a breathtaking sight? Did you know that producing a product and releasing it onto the market isn't an easy undertaking? Yes, I did. When I initially saw the production process, I was blown away. Sarah talked to me on the way back and said that since it was a branch office, there were things that could be done. She was talking quite deeply. Being a branch office, there are things we can do. For instance, as I listened to her, my gaze strayed to the sidewalk across from me. Charlie. One of the dogs on the other side of the crosswalk was strikingly similar to Charlie, my family's cherished dog who had just died. "Are you listening, Ted? The light is red." Before I realized it, I was running a red light after the dog. Perhaps I didn't notice the light had gone red since I wasn't feeling well. Sarah's voice sounded frantic at that point, and as I turned to see what was happening, I heard a blaring siren. The next thing I knew, Sarah had rushed ahead of me and was pushing me. The next thing I knew, Sarah was down in the middle of the crossing, and I was laying in the middle of the road. A distressed motorist hurried to Sarah while phoning for assistance. In the midst of the cacophonous surroundings and my hazy consciousness, I realized that Sarah had been struck by the vehicle. I lost my memories at that point. When I awoke the next morning, I was in a hospital and told by a nurse who had come to change my IV that I had been in an accident and that my injuries were minimal. I was also receiving an IV for tiredness. How was the woman who assisted me doing? I was concerned about Sarah's disappearance. Sarah had been hit, not me, at that point. I could not get the picture of her falling to the ground out of my head. I was getting nervous because she wasn't here, but I kept telling myself she must be okay. The unfriendly nurse just replied she was okay and walked away. Knowing she was secure at least gave me a sense of relief. I followed instructions and went to the room Sarah was in after my IV was completed. "This is Ted, Sarah." When I knocked and yelled, a woman who resembled Sarah appeared. "Who might you be?" she inquired, startled by a severe tone. Sarah assisted me from inside the room as I was struggling to think of how to react. "Mia, let him go. He works with me." After saying that, the hesitant woman gave me permission to enter and went off to complete her admissions process. My first words were, "Sarah, I'm really sorry, and I apologize for hurting her." Sarah forgiven me without placing blame on me, even though I constantly apologized and bent my head. "Ted, I'm relieved you're safe. You don't typically cross at a red signal. Did you spot a familiar face?" Sarah's arm was shattered and one leg was bruised. Thankfully, she didn't sustain a serious injury to her head, and she soon regained consciousness. She was using her laptop despite her condition. When I heard her inquiry, my face became hazy. I ran after a dog that looked exactly like my deceased pet. Since I've never been good at lying, I gave her the truth even though I worried she could become upset for no apparent reason. Even though the light was red, I ran after a dog that looked exactly like my recently deceased pet. When I apologized for the second time, I was prepared for a reprimand, but she spoke to me again in a kind tone. That's what transpired. It must have been difficult. Her unexpected remarks caused my eyes to widen. If she thought I was playing around and reprimanded me for nearly getting into an accident while chasing a dog, it wouldn't be unreasonable. I'd assumed that was the case, but Sarah abruptly stopped typing on her computer and turned to face me, which caused my heart to begin beating rapidly. I finished the paperwork. Her younger sister, who was just returning, gave me a look that seemed astonished that I was still there. She then abruptly turned back to Sarah and said that she couldn't visit every day due to her job's demands. After the discharge, she wanted to help, but it would be challenging to do so every day. "There's no need to worry," Sarah answered with a grin, but I began to worry as well, considering the difficulties she must be having attempting to lead a normal life while confined by her disabilities, knowing that I was the cause of everything. Before I knew it, I was volunteering to help. "May I come and assist with daily tasks if it's not too much trouble?" Her younger sister was the first to respond to my unexpected proposal. There would undoubtedly be an issue. An unidentified man entering and leaving my sister's place is not something I want. She appeared guarded and wary of me. This response, though, was most likely normal. I would undoubtedly respond the same way if I had a sister and found myself in the same circumstance. All I wanted to do was help, but I had to come up with another idea. With this in mind, I was about to take back what I had said when Sarah said something unexpected. Perhaps I should ask Ted for assistance if Mia is busy. In this manner, he can assist with work from home as well. Despite her younger sister's best efforts to halt it, my suggestion was approved when Sarah said just one sentence. She doesn't change her mind once she makes it. It seems that her younger sister began sharing tasks with me after seeming resigned. She took control of the laundry, coming in once a week on rotation, and I would assist with the other housework after work because she was still on guard. Every day until the discharge, I would stop by to provide any desired items and report on work. Apparently fiercely protective of her sibling, her younger sister repeatedly reiterated with great emphasis, "If you harbor any inappropriate feelings toward my sister, I will never forgive you." I told Sarah, "Don't worry," and she added, "Thank you for your understanding. I'll try my hardest." Sarah smiled and bowed her head in a friendly gesture, but her younger sister, still cautious, kept glaring at me. After work every day after that, I went to the hospital. I would gather work documents for Sarah and bring packages from her sister so as not to disrupt her place of employment. After 2 weeks of these days, Sarah was cleared to go. She required therapy for some time even after being released. So I continued to visit her every day after work to make sure she wouldn't experience any difficulties in her day-to-day activities. The only difference was that Sarah's room was used in place of the hospital room. I appreciate everything you've done. Having you cook and clean has been really beneficial because it can be challenging to do it alone. I was initially hesitant to go into a woman's apartment on a daily basis, but I soon adjusted because Sarah seemed to not object at all. Given that I caused the harm, it makes sense. Don't worry about it, really. Even though our talk was informal, I was constantly amazed by her ability to work tirelessly on her computer despite having a disability in her arm. As the visitation days went on, I became aware of something. "Did you fill the tea maker with tea, Ted?" She was clumsy, so I said, "That wasn't me. You made it yourself yesterday." She almost fell over nothing on a number of occasions, and that made me nervous. She would quickly change the TV to a comedy show if it was on and talk enthusiastically about the comedians she suggested. Every now and then she would smile without guard. I was starting to perceive Sarah as someone of the other sex, day by day. Not in an improper manner, of course. The person who was meant to be the trustworthy and competent supervisor appeared lovely and endearing. "Aren't you doing anything with my sister now?" Although my relationship with my younger sister, Mia, who comes over once a week to do laundry, has improved, she still closely monitors me to make sure I'm not slacking. "Don't worry, I'm not brave enough to do that." She is rude. It's true. On occasion, I discovered that Mia and I are of the same age. Even when we disagreed, Sarah would observe us with a satisfied expression, as if she wished we got along. Following a lengthy period of rehabilitation, Sarah resumed her job a few days later. From today, I look forward to working with you again. As she entered the office, coworkers joyfully celebrated Sarah's return by preparing a cake. I've never seen Sarah grin so softly in the midst of the holiday atmosphere in the office. That smile makes my heart race once more, and I question whether it's truly racing. She drew me into the circle to join in the celebration, so I put my hand over my heart and stopped thinking about it. I continue to support Sarah, who hasn't entirely healed, in the company even after that. She has been living a hectic life and gratefully accepted my offer. I continued working after work since I was determined to get back to the headquarters and couldn't give up. I stopped visiting Sarah's house to lend a hand when her younger sister, Mia, was going through a difficult time at work. I used that time to focus on project proposals, saving even my sleep, although feeling a little lonely. Sarah may have seen how I was feeling because one day while I was at work, she pulled me out and claimed to be going to see some clients. Are the process checks not necessary? Not doing anything specific in particular. Simply going to clients and striking up a conversation. It was strange that there were no standard procedure checks or proposal submissions. All we have to do today is present our faces. For Sarah, who is productive at her job, simply observing and conversing with the workers at the plant is plenty. This schedule was out of the ordinary. I questioned the purpose of these apparently meaningless outdoor rounds. As work hours drew to a close, the answer remained elusive. I stayed back alone to work on the proposal as usual after seeing colleagues go earlier. "You're working hard, Ted." In the now empty office, I heard Sarah's voice for some reason. "You're not usually here at this hour, Sarah." Mia will be concerned, so you should go early. Saying I should have something, she nearly forced me to eat by handing me a sandwich and a cup of coffee. Before she started eating, Sarah, who also purchased one for herself, struck up a discussion. I've heard that you worked at headquarters on product development, Ted. They claimed that you were incredibly committed. I was at headquarters at the time, so why was I moved to a branch in the country? She claims that she questioned higher management directly about the reason because she was too interested. You may think you were transferred because you were incompetent, but that's a big misunderstanding. I stopped eating and turned to face Sarah as she approached, as though she could see right through my heart. The headquarters wants you to build a production line for the products. My employer at the time told me these things when I was transferred, but I took them to be words of consolation at the time. I considered my move from headquarters to a rural branch to be merely unfortunate. Without saying anything, I simply assumed that and walked out of headquarters. Looking back, I thought I was pretty impolite. Sarah went on to say, "That was just a comforting word I couldn't understand. You have the ability to give things careful thought, Ted. During the time you were assisting me, I sensed that not everyone could. Even the supervisors at headquarters, according to Sarah, appreciated my consideration and believed I ought to be part in the production process. I was aware of the enthusiasm for product development, but we can only improve things by working with the creators. Supporting these individuals is the company's top priority." She showed me that it's not enough to just submit product plans and have them created. They want me to help link the corporation and the makers because of this. I heard that from Sarah. I learned from that talk that my boss's statements to me at the time were truthful. At the same time, I came to the realization that I had missed a lot because I was too wedded to the headquarters title. Had I not visited the branch, I would have been unaware of some realities. You are not incompetent, Ted. There must be a lot of workers just like me. You were anticipated. You were moved in order to better the company's prospects. I was so incompetent that I started crying at her final statement. I was relieved when the tight thread of having to put in a lot of effort was gradually broken. I'm glad, I said to myself. There was nothing I could do. Sarah rubbed my back tenderly while I sobbed until I stopped. I made the decision to change the way I work from this day on. I began visiting clients more frequently and ceased staying at the office. My consideration has been appreciated by the employer. I want to do everything I can right now to contribute to the creation of better products if that can assist someone, save someone, and be reflected in my job. That's why it's crucial for people who think and those who make to interact and share their thoughts. I was able to establish these new relationships amongst businesses online. But after that, something else changed inside of me. Even though I was leading a fulfilling life and finding meaning at work, I started to feel more and more empty within every day. I had no idea what it was, but I always feel lonely once I get home when I'm by myself. I've spent a lot of time living alone. Does feeling lonely now seem odd? I pondered. But I didn't understand this loneliness until I turned on the television. The dinner I prepared was for two, and the station I had inadvertently switched to was a comedy show. Indeed, I did miss the little moment as I went to assist. I remember eating across from Sarah while chatting casually and watching TV on the couch. I became aware of my emotions when I started searching for signs of Sarah. I then made the decision to get in touch with her and ask if we might meet. We agreed to meet at a chic wine bar close to Sarah's house. Sarah said she loves wine and said she would come right away. While I was hesitating to tell Sarah how I felt, Sarah cheerfully sipped her wine. "Hey, Ted," she replied. "I don't know why, but I feel lonely when I'm by myself in my room. I search for signs of your presence and find myself yearning to see you. I like you then." I told her because I wanted to. Sarah was the one who surprised me by telling me how she felt. The fact that we felt the same way also surprised me, and I couldn't help but enlarge my eyes. I feel the same way, Sarah. While searching for signs of you, I felt lonely. I wanted to let you know that I like you, which is why I invited you today. My confession turned out to be a little clumsy, but Sarah, seeing that we shared the same sentiments, blushed and burst out laughing, maybe to cover up her discomfort. Additionally, I couldn't resist laughing, and a positive vibe permeated the room. We began dating in earnest after that. I was offered a position at headquarters 3 years later, but I turned it down since I still wanted to concentrate on my work at the branch. Sarah and I are now strolling down a straight route at a leisurely pace, arm in arm. If you make my sister cry, I won't forgive you. Mia was clapping her hands in tears as we met with friends, family, and coworkers from both sides. Sarah, wearing a lovely dress, gave Mia a soft smile. Yes, we get married. We enjoyed our joy as we walked down the aisle. Sarah's slightly enlarged belly is home to a new life. Despite the gifts, Sarah and I are looking forward to the joy that lies ahead.